Imagine this. It's midnight and someone knocks at your door. You open it, and standing there is the one person you swore you'd never see again. What would you do? This is the story of Victoria Blake, a powerful CEO admired by millions, and Daniel Harris, a quiet man whose life was far from the spotlight. Years ago, their paths had crossed. Their hearts had connected, but life tore them apart. She climbed higher into wealth and power, while he stayed behind in silence. Neither thought they would meet again, until one night, fate sent her knocking on his door at midnight, with words that would change everything. Imagine it's midnight. The world outside is quiet, the streets almost empty, and the silence so deep you can hear your own heartbeat. Now imagine a knock at your door, soft but urgent, breaking that stillness. That's where our story begins, because on this night, a woman who had everything walked up to the one door she thought she'd never knock on again. Her name was Victoria Blake. To the world, she was untouchable, a brilliant young CEO who built an empire on her father's legacy. She had money, power, fame. But what she didn't have was peace. Behind her confident walk and perfect image lived a loneliness she never let anyone see. Except for one man, long ago, who once knew her heart better than anyone else. His name was Daniel Harris. He lived far from the glamorous towers of the city. A quiet man, humble and reserved, carrying his own scars from life. Years ago, he and Victoria had been closer than she had ever been with anyone. But choices, pressure, and circumstances pulled them apart. Victoria had climbed higher into her world of wealth, while Daniel stayed grounded in his simple life. And they hadn't spoken in years. So when Daniel heard that midnight knock, the last person he expected to see on the other side was her, Victoria Blake, the CEO herself, standing in the dim light of the hallway, her hand still hovering as if she wasn't sure she should have knocked at all. Daniel froze. His heart stuttered in his chest. She looked different, not in her elegance, but in her eyes. They weren't sharp and cold like the newspapers always showed. Tonight they were soft, almost broken. He whispered her name, not believing it was real. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" Her lips trembled, and for the first time in years, she struggled to find words. I didn't know where else to go," she said, her voice breaking. "I had to see you." Daniel stepped aside, still stunned, and let her in. Inside his small apartment, the contrast was almost painful. No gold chandeliers, no polished marble, just warm lamps, worn books, and the faint smell of coffee. Victoria glanced around, her eyes filling with memories of a time when life was simpler, when she and Daniel would sit for hours dreaming of futures that never came true. And then, as the silence stretched, she finally said the words that made him crumble. "Daniel, I never stopped loving you. I thought I could bury it under success, under power, under everything I built. But every night, when it's quiet, it's your face I see. It's your voice I hear. I pushed you away because I thought I had to, but I was wrong." Daniel's chest tightened. For years, he had told himself he was nothing to her anymore, that her world was too far from his. And yet, here she was, at midnight, confessing the truth he had once begged to hear. His hands shook as tears welled in his eyes. "You left me behind, Victoria," he whispered, his voice heavy with pain. "Do you know how much that broke me?" "I know," she cried, her tears falling freely now, "and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But I'm here now, asking for a second chance, not as the CEO, not as someone powerful, just as a woman who loves you." Daniel tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Years of loneliness, of heartbreak, of believing he wasn't enough, it all came rushing back. And then, with the gentleness that had always defined him, he said, "You don't know what it means, hearing those words from you." Victoria reached for his hand, trembling. For a moment, nothing else in the world existed. Just two people, broken yet bound by a love they thought was gone forever. And in that tiny apartment, a powerful CEO and a humble man stood together, realizing that sometimes no amount of money or status can silence the truth of the heart. So I'll leave you with this. If someone from your past showed up at your door in the middle of the night, confessing they still loved you, would you give them another chance? Or would you close the door forever? Victoria had everything: money, success, influence. But none of it mattered when she realized the one thing she couldn't replace was Daniel. That night, at his door, she gave him the truth he had waited years to hear. But the question remains, if someone from your past appeared in the middle of the night, confessing they still loved you, would you let them back into your life, or close the door forever?